Road, as I mentioned before, there is this back and forth in my mind between Fury Road and The Road Warrior. As for today, Fury Road came out on top. And I feel like Fury Road built on top of the foundation laid by The Road Warrior, where it adds an enormous amount to the budget. It adds 21st century technology. And because the movie had an extremely long pre-production, this led to a scenario where there's a tremendous amount of depth to all of the details in this film without compromising Miller's vision. It was almost compromised. The studio almost wanted to put out this other cut of the film, but in the end, Miller's version is the one that was released. And so you get this very commercial action film that's also very artful. And it's a movie that had such a bizarre backstory of how it came to be, where they started writing this movie back in the late 90s. One of the reasons this movie is so special is that it had a very long development phase. The original drawings for this film about Warrior Woman with robot arm go back to 1996, and they started building out what was the script for this movie in 1997. It's not a movie that had a traditional script. Instead, they made the movie entirely with storyboards, which made the movie difficult for some of the actors, in particular Tom Hardy.
But also, in reference to the concept of having a script, that would have been nice as well. So that was more of a concern to me.
So they wrote the movie in the late 90s. They were going to shoot it in the early zeros with Mel Gibson, and then for a variety of reasons, it fell through. Then they were going to shoot it right around 2010, and then because of bad weather, the desert they were going to shoot in turned into this luscious green land. So then they had to delay it 2 more years, and they finally shot it in 2012, and then it didn't come out until 2015. And because of that, and because Miller kept working on the film that entire time, it wasn't sitting on the shelf. He kept developing it and working on it. It kept getting better and better and more detailed. While the story here is very simple, people drive down the road, do a U-turn, and come back. What makes this movie excellent is the execution in all of the details. Every character is fleshed out. Even these little side characters had a whole backstory of who they were, and so everything feels more meaningful than it probably should. And a character like Furiosa, there's a whole backstory that Charlize Theron had in every single scene. There's a story already written about what Mad Max was up to the whole year before this movie takes place. And you feel that watching the film. But of course, the thing that this movie is most known for is having the most insane car stunts ever put onto film. It's a 2-hour chase movie in a desert with these insane vehicles, with all of this George Miller creativity taking place. It's massive in scope and size, where there's all these wide shots of all these cars driving together, insane stunts with people on poles flying across the air, where they really put people on poles doing a high-speed chase with a whole bunch of different vehicles. Cars are flipping over in the sand. It's insane. And it's the sort of movie where you actually are kind of wowed, because you're like, they really did that. They actually flipped cars, did all these crazy stunts. It was an incredibly difficult production. It was an incredibly long production. And it's an example of how VFX can be used right. This movie is jam-packed with visual effects, but they augmented and enhanced something that was shot in camera. So you have a real stunt taking place, and then the VFX removed wires and they changed the sky. But they really did a stunt. And so there's a believability and a reality to everything that you're seeing. And while this is a gigantic budgeted Hollywood film, you feel people doing incredibly dangerous things, because they were. And the wild thing, no one was harmed making this movie. No broken bones or anything like that, which is insane given just how wild these stunts are. And because they were shooting on location, there's so many shots of just like the war rig driving down the road, the Fury Road, that are gorgeous. just incredible landscape shots of just a car driving. And those are the sorts of things that make a movie special, where every shot looks awesome, every stunt is impressive, every detail is built out. This is what a good sequel does. It reminds us of everything that we loved about the previous one, but it does something wholly original and builds and expands on what came before. This is one of the great sequels of all time. It's one of the great action movies of all time.